Hello again, everybody. This is Think on This. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. Before I get into the text, I just want to make sure everyone realizes that I'm not oblivious to all that's going on. It's a pretty trying time that we're going through with this coronavirus pandemic. And there's a number of things that we're cautioned to remember, to wash our hands, to avoid direct contact with other people that could be potentially infectious, which is, I said potentially, it could be anybody. You need to be conscious of the things that you come in contact with. Sanitize as often as you can. Stay informed. There's a lot of alerts coming out from our government, from health organizations, the CDC, the WHO. I'm in the state of Illinois, so you've got the Illinois Department of Health. So just be on the lookout for that stuff. The reason why I say that on this podcast, this is a Christian podcast. This is a podcast that seeks to glorify God. And one of the things that I was reminded of yesterday while I was in church was, as Christians, not just corporately in a church, although this does apply, but as an individual, we have a testimony to maintain. And one part of maintaining that testimony is complying. There's two extremes to how you handle situations like this. You could be completely complacent, where you absolutely don't care. You think it's hogwash. You think it's just a joke. And then you could be the other extreme, where you're causing mass hysteria. You're participating in, obviously, a lot of things that have been going on. And I've seen a lot of jokes about it. I participated in myself online, where, we're talking about people not having enough toilet paper, or we still have to go to work even though everyone else is shutting down. And, it's a very serious situation, and we shouldn't take light of it. And I believe it does hurt our testimony to some degree when we go too far with the humor part of it. And then we can also hurt our testimony by going too far with the hysteria. So we need to find the balance. And we need to, like I said, maintain our testimony, because people are watching. And there's not a better time, because this is a time of crisis. I believe it is a legitimate time of crisis. There's not a better time for us to let the light of Jesus Christ shine in our lives, so that the lost and dying world can see that. Because we talk about viruses, we talk about sickness, we can talk about death and all that. We know that as Christians, this isn't the end. This isn't all that we have to look forward to. We have a hope of heaven through the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it's something that we need to keep that in. We need to keep that in mind as we go through this situation. Not just this situation. Eventually, Lord willing, it will blow over. Everything will go back to normal to some degree. We may never be the same again as a nation just because of the way this situation presented itself. But we do need to keep in mind, as things stabilize and somewhat normalize, we should still be shining lights and examples of the gospel, whether it's bad or good. That's what a good, true, faithful servant is. Someone who is loyal and faithful in the good and in the bad. And that's how we want to present ourselves to the world, and we want to live obedient, holy lives for our God. And that's coincide with what I'm going to talk to you about today. Romans chapter 1, verses 8 through 12 says this: "First, I thank my God," this is Paul talking, the Apostle Paul, "I thank my God through Jesus Christ for all of you, because your faith is proclaimed in all the world. For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I mention you always in my prayers, asking that somehow by God's will I may now at last succeed in coming to you. For I long to see you, that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to strengthen you. That is, that we may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith, both yours and mine." So the Apostle Paul here is demonstrating his affection for the Roman church. He longs to see them. He had not yet been with them, but had heard of them from afar, because their faithfulness stood out to the whole world, at least the whole world at that time. That's an amazing testimony. The Roman church had an amazing testimony, and it's amazing the opinion Paul had of them. He obviously was like, this is a group of people to recognize for their faithfulness. And he shows his affection in the prayers that he's praying. And this isn't much different than the opinion he had of the Philippians. There was great gratitude for these people and their ministry in the prayers of Paul. So I'm reminded of this question, and I asked this on I think one of the very first episodes I did as I went through my study of Philippians. Do people express the same joy when they think of you the same way Paul thought of the Romans? Has your faith and your testimony impacted people in this way? He's so excited about the work they are doing that he is ceasing. He's doing it without ceasing. Sorry, in his prayers to God, asking, "Hey, Lord, I want to visit these people. I want to come to them soon." He's so excited about the work that they're doing. He wants to go there and see them soon. Would Paul be that excited to see you because of your faithfulness? Now remember, Paul's a busy guy. He's an evangelist. He's an apostle establishing churches in the Middle East. He's also a tent maker. He manufactures leather to build tent houses. And another thing is he's also in and out of prison. So with all that on his mind, would he think of you? Would you be on his mind? Would he think of your church? The example you're setting of faithfulness? For some of you, it might be a really exciting thought. But for others, it would be a very sobering thought. We see that we see what he looks forward to as well. He wishes when he sees them, he wants to impart them spiritual gifts and to encourage them. And he feels that they will also be an encouragement to him. So how awesome would that be if that could be said of us? And like I said earlier, what we're talking about here coincides with what's going on today. We need to be an encouragement, and we need to be a firm reminder of the gospel and the work Jesus Christ is doing in us. These bodies will eventually wear out and die. If it's not a pandemic, it'll be natural causes at some point. And what we have to look forward to is eternity, heaven, hell. For the believer, it's heaven. For the unbeliever, it's hell. And we have the message that brings salvation. Jesus has given that to us in his word. And that's what the Romans were living out in their time. And let's not forget, during this time, it was a time of great persecution for the church. So they were experiencing adversity probably greater than what we experience. I mean, we're in the U.S. Yeah, we've got a health pandemic going on, but we're not undergoing persecution. People were dying by spears and guillotines and swords and dismemberment. All these horrible things were going on during the time of the Roman church. But here we're dealing with a virus that's, while it's serious, it's not hindering us from sharing the gospel that Jesus died, the Son of God died to give us. So it's something that we should keep in mind. We should bear in mind. We should encourage others. We should impart the message of the gospel to people. It's a lost and dying world. People want answers. People are probably asking. Some people are asking in this hysteria, why is this happening to me? Why are we going through this? It's like, we have an answer. We have an answer, and we should share it. We should not be ashamed of that. We need to be lifting up people and directing them to the truth, because the power of the gospel is demonstrated so strongly in our lives. And may that be said of us. May that be not just a happy saying, but an actual reality. May that be said of our faith when others see us. May they have the opinion of Paul. That God could be our witness in the joy that others express over our faithfulness to him, and to also advance the gospel and to glorify God.